is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in today. Well, it is a Friday morning version of the show. It is a get 'em up out of town version in the true sense of the word. We're going to open it up to you today for whatever is on your mind. I'm going to wrap it up, so to speak. We've assaulted you over the last many weeks with slaying sacred cows. Now, if you've been listening to this show, you know what I mean about that sacred cow stuff. I mean, a lot of what we've held dear to us has been chucked. At least I've chucked it. Some of you are having some difficulty in the chucking. I'm going to try to pull it all together today and try to maybe explain the most salient points to three main topics over these past many weeks. First on the oils, fats, the fatty acids, the fish oil phenomenon. We certainly took that one on first. Then the fiber phenomenon we took on second, and just ended the other day with this issue of constipation, very much interrelated to the ingestion of fibers. Well, there's a few points to make clear, and a lot of yakking went on here on our show, but I'll try to help you with pulling it together, wrapping it up. No more sacred cows to slay, but let the smoke clear just a bit. If you want to get it off your chest, if you got something to bring forward with relationship to these sacred cows that we slayed, or just anything all on your mind is okle dokle with me, give us a call here at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Now, calendar-wise, it's looking like this. This is it, folks. This is the last day of the month of September. We do turn the page today, moving into the month of October. And what are we going to do with this? I heard Bill say 40 degrees, but I did hear him say also next week back into the 70s. So that's something to look forward to, Pittsburghers. We're going to be here with you on Mondays. Faye Houston is coming back. Now, Faye was with us, it's over a year ago now, with her plight. It was quite a conundrum for her, almost an entire lifetime lost with an environmental set of circumstances that had her searching high and low for a way to get her life back. Well, she searched high. She searched low. That saga of what she searched and what she explored and what she finally learned to actually win the day for her is our discussion on Monday, where Faye Houston returns to us talking about her book, The Silent Enemy, Environmental Illness, and One Woman's Search for a Cure. That's her book. We'll be talking to Faye on Monday. And on Wednesday, Susan Smith-Jones returns. Now, I missed her webinar back on the 16th of the month, but she's going to be talking about weight loss. Maybe she can share with all of us what that webinar had to relay to us. And if you did see it, by the way, I haven't heard anybody mention that they caught her on the web, but love to hear from you. And of course, on the 14th, David Brownstein returns to discuss his newest book, The Soy Deception. That's the way October is shaping up so far. Now, we do have an early knock on the door. Come on the store. Hello and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Hi, I have a question about two things. I don't know if hyperthyroidism is called Hashimoto's disease or if they're two separate things, and I'd like you to address how would you evaluate someone for either or both of those, and then what would your protocol be in trying to get things straightened out.
Sort of everything you want to know about thyroid disease in a 1 minute answer. I tell you what, I think I'll pull it together for you. With respect to Hashimoto's disease, you know, hypothyroid is so rampant here in western Pennsylvania, but the regular way that happens is because of our lack of iodine in our soils, and it just makes thyroid disease so replete that it's almost difficult to find a female who is unafflicted. So hypothyroid happens indigenously to our area because we have no
Hyper.
Hypothyroidism.
My daughter was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism.
Well, I'll get to it in a moment. Okay, I will.
Okay.
But
I'm going to hang up and listen to you.
all right, very good. Very good questions. With respect to our area, yes, the most common form of thyroid disease that we're going to confront in western Pennsylvania is hypothyroidism. Hyperthyroidism, by the way, is certainly a medical entity. It is really difficult. It's very rare to find. It is not that common a problem. So, and I would say that with respect to hypothyroidism, you literally can live a life, miserable as it will be, but you can live a life with very poor amounts of thyroid hormone, and although, as I say, it'll be miserable, you really don't have any crisis issues to be concerned with. That's not the case in hyperthyroidism, because in hyperthyroidism, you can almost say that there has to be an intervention, there must be an intervention, because crises can occur. Now, this thing about Hashimoto's disease and Graves' disease because what it is a person's immune system attacking their own thyroid gland. And it is true, for a while at least, there can be some hyperactivity of the gland, giving the impression of a condition of hyperthyroid. Well, not the impression. It can actually provoke the symptoms of hyperthyroidism, which, as I said, has to be intervened with. However, after a while, once the attack on the gland has been sustained for a considerable period of time, the gland goes quiet. The gland literally can't function anymore. It's been attacked so badly by the person's immune system that they always finally come to a point that even if they may have been hyperthyroid for a moment or for a while, a small period of time, the gland ultimately becomes inactive, hypothyroid, and that's how the disease culminates. Now, if the hyperthyroid component is so out of kilter, if it's so extreme and so intense, they may actually ablate the gland with I-131, that's a radioactive form of iodine, PTU, propylthiouracil, and other forms of intervention to cause the gland to quiet down. If they do that, you certainly will hasten the arrival of hypothyroidism, but nonetheless, you were going to get there anyway. You just needed to have medical science intervene to bring you to it so you could get over the hyperthyroid crisis. So, hypothyroidism is what's indigenous to us. Hyperthyroidism is not. Hyperthyroidism always requires some form of intervention, and it might even require ablation of the gland. But one way or another, whether the gland gets ablated by a medical doctor or just time moves on because of the assault of the immune system onto the gland itself, it ultimately is going to end up in both cases as a hypothyroid condition. I hope I haven't confused you. I hope I've illuminated this a bit. And thank you very much for the question. And we move on. One to mention, next week, by the way, it returns, it being MCG testing. It's been a while to get here, folks. We had to procure the device. I just talked to the distributor of the device yesterday. Ours is going to be sent out today. We'll get it sometime around Tuesday. We'll be in play for our Thursday encounter on October 6th. MCG testing returns. If you have been involved in MCG testing in the past, of course, this is the three letters stand for multifunctional cardiogram, and this is a unique device It looks like an EKG machine, really, but it's so much more. It's able to assess 160. Yeah, 160. I thought it was 166. 160 different data points. And by doing this electronically, and I don't know how it does it. I keep saying that. I don't know. But electronic wizardry has entered into medicine in a real helpful way, because we can get information from the MCG test to let us know the status of an individual's coronary arteries. Whereas before this device had been available, the only way we could get that information was through a cardiac catheterization. As invasive as that is, as plagued as that can be with absolutely consequences and side effects for the procedure itself, yes, it is still a gold standard with respect to assessing the inside of those arteries. It's always important for us to know the status of those coronaries, but nobody wants to have a cardiac catheterization to do it. MCG testing has now taken that, meaning the cardiac catheterization, out of the loop. It is not necessary to move to a cardiac cath. Of course, those who have catheterizations have them not because they requested them, but because they're having some crises, some symptoms, some things that urge the doctors to get and take a look at the status of the coronaries. Well, if you ever get into a situation where you're in an emergency room, I'm going to guess that the gold standard will continue and will remain a cardiac cath. But here you are now, you're nowhere near an emergency room situation. You'd like to know, would you not, the status of those coronaries, so you can actually do something about it. That's what MCG testing does. There are many of you out there who listen to this program who've already been tested for the first round. Your second round of testing, if you've been told that you'll have to repeat or can repeat in 3 months or 6 months, because we are able to repeat this testing in that level of frequency. If you were told that when we went over the results of your last MCG testing, it has now come to pass. Your 3 to 6 month period is over. Give us a call. The number here, 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002. Wait until just after 9 o'clock. If you want to speak to Kim, she's our office manager here, and she can allow you to enroll for the remaining slots on the 6th of October, and I promise to come up with another slot, maybe even before the month of October is out. Certainly by the first week of November, once we have it procured a device, it will be here at all times. Okay. What else? Well, let's do this. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we're literally going to open it up to you. It is an open phone show today. I'm going to try to pull together all this stuff, these sacred cows that went down one after another after another. I'll try to do that when we return. You can call and interrupt. It is not an interruption, by the way, at any time. 412-825-6262. Be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones a blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on a Friday morning version of the show in all of its glory. Yes, it is a get-em-up-out-of-town version of the show. Frigid a weekend, as it looks like we have in store for us. But we can go out of here as hot as we want, talking about anything you'd like at all. I'm going to be talking a bit about pulling this all together. We have assailed you with information that has flown in the face of what you have come to appreciate and hold most dear to you. You thought it was solidly entrenched in the medical literature. As it turns out, in each case, it was not. And whenever I find scientific data that poses a problem with respect to what is already considered dogma, science will and should, by the way, win the day. And so I brought you the science. I'm going to try to pull together, we're going to wrap it up and bring it all to fruition. So if you missed all the shows, and if you did, you really did miss something spectacular, please, I would urge you to go to the archives at the website at djcmd.com. On the opening page, click on Archives there, and you'll be able to go down and scroll through the last 6 to 8 weeks worth of shows that just kept striking at dogma, which we had embraced, which it turns out we now needed to reject, and they came in essentially 3 forms. The first statement I made, and it caused reverberations. I got phone calls. Quite a bit of the people that I do know told me that they were called by friends of theirs saying, "Did you hear what he said about fish oil?" And I did say it, and I'm going to say it again, that fish oil is hazardous to your health. And, of course, over the long haul, with the dosage of fish oil that we've been taking, that 1,000 milligrams, standard dose, by the way, 1 capsule containing 1,000 milligrams of fish oil. We never knew at the time that was the equivalent of 17 pounds of fish. That's phenomenal to me to think that. And then in 1 bottle containing 100, if you do the math, that's 1,500 pounds of fish. Wow, what a dose. Anyway, we thought it was so healthy. It was supposed to help us in many, many ways. We found out quite the contrary through scientific research done by prestigious institutions and then published in very prestigious journals. We recited them to you case after case after case, study after study, experiment, better word, experiment after experiment, to be able to confirm the fact that fish oil did not and was not able to perform all that it has been cracked up to be in just about every area that we held most dear. That fish oil was supposed to be helpful for our heart and blood vessels. It is not. That fish oils help as a brain food in dementia. It will not. It cannot. It does not. So every sacred cow that we held most dear for why we would take fish oils was attacked, not by necessarily the guests, even though we had 2 stellar guests talking on this subject, one being Professor Brian Peskin, the other being Edward Kane. Talk about them in just a moment. But it wasn't them railing up against the fish oils. It was them citing the medical literature that somehow I couldn't see, I wasn't seeing, that these papers were done and published in these prestigious journals and then somehow just pushed back in the closet They never made it to the front page of the Trib Review like a new vaccine will. if the drug companies come up with a new vaccine, you can guarantee that you're going to get a front page 3-column spread on it. It's just the way it is. But these other issues are going to be swept under the rug and have been swept under the rug. Fish oil is hazardous to your health, essentially in a wrap-up format, 2 ways. Now, there are many other ways, but these primarily are the 2 ways that fish oil, a very high dose of EPA and DHA that your body was never intended to receive. In the words of Brian Peskin, you are not a fish. You do not do well with such high levels of EPA and DHA that are found in fish oil because, by the way, they're found at about a 50-50 distribution in the fish oil. Half of the fish oil is EPA and half of it is DHA. These are very potent, extremely potent, high up on the food chain derivatives of the omega-3s. We had been told, and I think it certainly lulled us to sleep back in the 1980s by the very companies who first brought us the fish oil. The one I think of most frequently is Nordic Naturals. They did such a great job with creating an image of beautiful seas and lovely vessels and sanitarily taking care of the fish right there on the boat, and that we needed the fish oil because we needed the omega-3s because our diet was so overburdened here in the West with omega-6s. As it turned out, it better be overloaded and overstacked with omega-6s. It better be by about the tune of a ratio of 4-to-1 of omega-6s and omega-3s. Yet we bought into it, clinicians bought into it, I bought into it, because the story seemed to make some logical sense. The science had not been revealed just yet. Now, how is it that fish oils can be hazardous to your health? As I get back on point, essentially 2 ways. One is that by taking such a high quantity of EPA, which is one of the eicosanoids. There are 3 eicosanoids. Why are the eicosanoids important? The eicosanoids are wrapped up very intimately in the prostaglandin system. Prostaglandins do so much in the way of pro-inflammation and anti-inflammation that you absolutely don't want to interfere with the body's normal ratio of the 3 eicosanoids, which are, the 3 eicosanoids are DGLA, AA, which is arachidonic acid, and EPA. The distribution, by the way, is that the total amounts of those 3 eicosanoids that drive the prostaglandin system, 10% should be in the form of DGLA, 89% in the form of arachidonic acid, and 0.5% should be in the form of EPA. One should easily be able to see, in taking such high doses of EPA, how you can disturb that brittle mantle, that very sensitive mantle of the distribution of the eicosanoids in the 10 to 89 to 0.5 ratios. And if you do that, if you can take EPA, and you can, from 0.5%, which is the normal level it's supposed to be, and you can drive it up, and you will, by consuming fish oil, so potent as they are in omega-3s, and specifically in the EPA itself, you distort the total percentage of the EPA to maybe 1% or 2%. And by doing so, you have really upset the apple cart with respect to the eicosanoids. In so doing, you think this is a wonderful substance because you have completely shut down inflammation so it cannot occur. If you have the sore knee from arthritis, you love your fish oil because, well, your knee doesn't hurt so much anymore. And the reason, of course, that it doesn't is there's no inflammation component capable of being resurrected by your body. You have shut it down. You have kicked it off. You have disturbed and upset this apple cart so much that when you need inflammation, and ladies and gentlemen, you need it. It is a good thing. Inflammation is not bad. You need to have your immune system be able to rescue you by putting itself into play to take on all comers. That inflammatory response is a great response, and if you suppress it, you have provoked and taken a step that you wish that you never have taken. And unfortunately, I'm sure that all of us have maybe taken that step if we've taken and consumed fish oil in any amount over time. The second way that the fish oils can do us harm, I believe, is much more important than even the first. And that happens to do with the cell membrane itself. The cell membrane is where it all happens, folks. That obviously you consuming nutrients, you taking your supplements, you taking your minerals, all of these minerals, supplements, and nutrients don't mean squat unless you can get them into the cell itself. It is the membrane that surrounds each cell that determines if and how and to what degree things will be transported from the outside of a cell through that membrane to get into the cell. Consequently, the integrity of that membrane, the structure of that membrane is absolutely in a fine tolerance to allow the membrane, when all the ingredients are provided, to be at its optimal level of transport. That membrane, by the way, folks, is comprised completely of omega-6 fatty acids and none of the omega-3s. So when it comes time to repair a cell membrane, regenerate a new cell membrane, which is done every 90 days, the body is looking for the right ingredients, the omega-6s in their parent oil form, not in derivatives. Parent oil form, meaning the basement form of omega-6s, which we now know to be primrose oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. These are parent oils, and we must supply the body with those types of oils in order for the membrane to be built appropriately from the omega-6s that are required to build it. If you don't supply the parent oils, and if there are none around, meaning the body will then get some other source of an oil or of a fat to make that membrane, and if that happens to be EPA and DHA in such high quantities, you'll use it all right. And that membrane will be built, but it will be built on substances that it should not be built from. The integrity of the membrane becomes literally destroyed, and the transport mechanism to get things into and out of the cell is lost. That, I believe, is more than likely the formula for how all disease can occur. If the transportation of nutrients in and waste products out and accumulated metals and coming out of the cell, if that's distorted by a membrane that is inappropriately constructed, and it will be inappropriately constructed if you don't supply it with the right oils, that, I believe, is a consequence with a magnitude far in excess of disturbing the prostaglandin system. I'll come back to this, folks. I hope I'm wrapping it up okay for you, but this is what I've been able to garnish from both Ed King and Brian Peskin. We do have a knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello, and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
I had a question about the thyroid, but I'm still trying to, I guess, comprehend all this thing with the fish oil. My question is, remember that Randy who came out of the Sago mines?
Oh, yeah.
Years ago, and he was one of the ones who, I guess, was in there the longest.
Yes.
Just came out, he was still...
familiar with that case, very familiar with it.
And that, he attributed, and his doctors, West Virginia, I guess, attributed his success to the fish oil and, of course, hyperbaric. So if I remember them saying your brain is like, what, 70% fat. So if the fish oils really are that detrimental, now I don't know the ratio he was taking, he just said fish oil, doctors. If it really can bring the brain and recover it, you know, to survival and to actually, he can speak very clearly now and do his tasks. I mean, what is the, wouldn't that be the true test whether fish oils are detrimental?
Well, let's take apart, and I think you already answered the question in the way I've always looked at this, and the concentration of oxygen in a hyperbaric chamber is so elevated as compared to here on land. I mean, they take it down every 30, they take it down to 2 atmospheres, meaning that it's every 33 feet that you go below the surface of the skin of the sea is 1 atmosphere. So 66 feet, that's 2 atmospheres worth of partial pressure, and the amount of oxygen that gets into the system is so enormous that the benefits of hyperbaric oxygen are, I believe, what rescued that boy. I will tell you that there is a higher content of omega-3s in the brain than any other part of the body. That is true. So that by taking fish oil, I'm not going to be able to cipher out, as I could in any other part of the body, how to downplay the role of omega-3s to that magnitude. So that probably, but I probably won't be able to say fish oils didn't do a thing there, okay? But I will say that, in my opinion, ever since I've heard of this, it's always been the hyperbaric oxygen. That has been, in my opinion, and I send people to these chambers all the time. I never tell them to take fish oil. I always tell them, you get to a hyperbaric chamber if you've had a stroke or you've had some other neurological disease. So my answer to your question is, I don't believe it was the fish oil that was helpful in that case. It was the hyperbaric oxygen. They could have given him fish oil and did give him fish oil in West Virginia. If you remember, they sent him up here to our hospitals where he could receive the hyperbaric oxygen. That was the ingredient they could not give in West Virginia because they didn't have the chamber.
So he's in Pittsburgh.
So they helicoptered him to Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
And he was in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I'm going to say Allegheny General.
I
think it's Allegheny General, and I know that they do have a hyperbaric chamber. I mean, it's collecting dust somewhere right now. But
no, they use it.
Do they use it?
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Do they use it for wounds then? Maybe wounds?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was the helicopter trip to Pittsburgh where the gentleman was getting hyperbaric oxygen that saved the day. They didn't have the chambers at the WVU, but they certainly had them here.
Well, what about one more aspect of that? The Perlmutter uses the oxygen hyperbaric, obviously, but in his protocol, I believe they use the fish oil too.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a while. I have people I greatly respect in the medical realm, locally and outside of the local. And the science will be what is going to have to win the day. When the science is brought to their attention, you've got to go with the science. This release and flurry of information, I got to tell you, Brian Peskin probably, by the way, what'd you think of him? A little abrasive maybe? When he was on the show, what did you think of him in terms of his personality? Difficult question to answer, I know, from a listener viewpoint. But did you get that rub? I get the rub that he irritates people, okay? And that's not really good when you're trying to assail that which they may embrace and hold quite dear. And I think, as even you could use in my case, I mean, when you prescribed it, I have urged people to take fish oil. I'm one that can, if the science is presented to me, I'm not going to worry about how you gave me the science. I'm not going to worry about how it sounded when you spoke to me, that you appeared arrogant and you appeared challenging to me. No, I got to go with the science. And everyone will have to fight this demon, and ultimately it will win because the science is quite clear that fish oil, first of all, doesn't help, and second of all, actually is harmful. This one, and so you who are grappling with this still, I would say, if I put this in practical terms, what do you really care? If you're going to be taking essential fats as part of your daily supplement, why would it be that you would cling so dearly to fish oil with all this science when, in fact, I'm not saying to you don't take oils. I'm saying to you take the right oils, and it shouldn't be that controversial now. Might have been before, but with all the science that I've provided to you, I think the decision is quite easy. No, supplement with the correct oils, and you won't upset any apple carts and disturb anything. In fact, you'll provide the right ingredients so everything can work much more smoothly.
Okay. And then the thyroid question.
The thyroid, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll ask you this and hang up. Recently, everybody looked at the T3 and the T4, hopefully besides the TSH, but someone said it's important to also look at the T7, and I didn't understand what T7 was. And also, can you tell me what the half-life of armor is in the body? In other words, when I take it like at 6 in the morning, I think you discussed this before, but I actually forget. When I take it at 6 in the morning, when does it peak and then when is it completely out of your system versus if you take it with or if you combine it with Cytomel?
Okay, well, Cytomel, as mentioning that one, that is the pharmaceutically derived form of straight T3. Okay, and I never use Cytomel. Could easily write a prescription for it. I put a lot of people on straight T3, but I can't use Cytomel, and here's why. It's gone in 4 hours. I mean, it is gone. And so, in the ladies that I manage, and quite a few, 90% of the people I treat for thyroid, they're all women. There's very few men. But to think that I would get them established on a medication that they would have to take 6 times a day, they would string me up. I would string myself up. How can you remember to take something 6 times a day? Because that's how you'd have to take it to keep the doses right. So whenever I use T3, and I do use it, I won't be using Cytomel, never have, because of that short half-life and completely lost in 4 hours versus the compounded forms that last 12. So I hope that answers the T3 question. In terms of the armor, that's 50% T4 and 50% T3. The half-life of those is really measured in terms of days, and so there it's cumulative. It's completely unlike the T3 form, which really is rapidly metabolized, especially in the case of Cytomel. But even when it's compounded, they cannot get a preparation that lasts any longer than 12 hours. Consequently, you cannot take it once a day. But you certainly can take Armor or Nature's Thyroid once a day. By the way, you're taking Armor. Any reason why not taking Nature's Thyroid? Just for the heck of it, I ask.
Well, I started on Armor, then when that whole fiasco went on about them stopping the manufacture, I was on Nature's Thyroid through that pharmacy that you guys recommend.
Sure.
Just for maybe 6 months, and then when it came back on the market, I got back on it.
One little thing I'll point out to you, simply because I have the opportunity to write a prescription for either, and I never write it for Armor unless I'm requested by a patient. But nonetheless, they both are animal derived. They call them natural thyroid replacements, only because they're not human, but they're animal derived. They come from pigs, and the Armor comes from American pigs, and the Nature's Thyroid comes from New Zealand pigs. And that's a big difference in my opinion, because the rules and laws and regulations for raising livestock that will come to slaughter, and there'll be human uses for byproducts from those animals. The laws in New Zealand are very stringent about how these animals, what they can be fed, and we, as you would well know, here in the United States, have no such regulations. It's sort of whatever they can get away with, they'll do to fatten up that livestock to bring them to slaughter. And it's based on that and that alone that I would much more rely upon the New Zealand form of natural thyroid hormone.
I remember them saying that if you ever take a glandular, make sure it comes from New Zealand.
Well,
they purify it.
Exactly right, because every glandular would be coming from an animal, and none of them come from humans, they come from animals, and the laws there are very strict. So I just throw that out to you, and maybe out there, those who are listening to me today, who may be on an armor preparation, we hit a snag. You're right about that snag. It happened about 2 years ago. It was in the summertime, and there was a period of time when not only couldn't you get nature's thyroid, you couldn't even get armor, okay? I don't know what the explanation was by the drug companies who manufacture them too, but it was difficult for nature's thyroid to come back on. The armor came back on first. We no longer have that problem anymore. All pharmacies, at least as I can see it, are equally able to get both. And so the reasoning for maybe why you transferred yourself onto armor should be reconsidered, because...
No, I did. I was on armor, then I went on nature's steroid.
Mm-hmm. And look forward to get back on armor again?
And went back on armor when armor came back.
Well, as I should now have revealed to you, this New Zealand component is one I listen to. And I say, you know what, if I'm going to write a prescription for this, I'm specifically going to ask for nature's thyroid, no substitute. And in the few pharmacies that haven't learned it yet, these patients have to go elsewhere. But it's very infrequent now that nature's thyroid hormone is not available in the pharmacies. Any pharmacy seems to carry it. Okay?
Okay, but so what is the half-life of it, though?
Days. It's measured in days.
Hours?
No, it's measured in days.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, this one hangs around for a while.
Because I'm on one grain 3 times a day.
Well, you are literally not worried. I wouldn't worry about taking, like, I could prescribe a 3-grain tablet, and they do make them. And there would be a distribution of that medication as equally proportional throughout the entire day and well into the next.
Oh, just that one dosage.
Just that one dosage. So, I always try to bring things down to the easiest way for a patient to comply. And so anytime you get beyond once a day, you start to get in the shaky territory with most people. They're busy. They're out of the house. They oftentimes forget. So I do like the idea of 1 time a day dosing because it lasts so long. Why would we be worried about spreading it out over the course of the entire day? No.
Okay. And then what about the T7? And thank you, Dr. Courtney. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Okay? T7 is not in the mix for any reason to have to worry about using it. I told you, labs in general, just in general, are such unnecessary in terms of diagnosing whether or not you have a thyroid condition, because the labs are normal in just about 70% of the people I'm treating. If I use laboratory results to try to determine, and by the way, in my medical training, that's what I'm taught to do. I'm taught never to treat the thyroid unless the laboratory results say that it is necessary. And T3, T4, and TSH are usually the 3 that are observed. What T7 may play in some sophisticated way with making that decision is completely unimportant to me, because based on symptoms, you just have to look at somebody, you have to examine them, you have to ask them how they feel, and you'll be able to tell pretty easily from just that alone whether or not they need thyroid. And then you do a basal body temperature, and those 2 will rule the day as far as I'm concerned. And we'll follow labs later on, but to make the diagnosis, not necessary. In fact, it's screwing everything up. Doctors are looking at labs. They're not observing their patients. They're not examining their patients. They're not finding out what the metabolic rates are that ultimately produce basal body temperatures. They're just looking at labs. And it's a travesty out there, folks. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll pull this fish oil thing together. You may have a question or 2 you want to bring to my attention. Still grappling with the fish oils, are you? Why are you having such a fuss? Hey, you're replacing the oil. Just switch the oil. That's all. Be back in a moment.
Been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit of the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health here on a Friday morning get 'em up out of town version of the show where we're asking you get a mind to, give us a call, find out what's on your mind. Fish oil controversy? Hopefully it's becoming less controversial. Nonetheless, you don't have to talk about the fish oils. You can talk about anything you want. We do have a knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello, and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Good morning.
Sure.
I was listening to you for a while here, and I wanted to ask, what are the letters in the website again? I know it's your initials, DJC, but there's something else there.
Oh, yeah, MD.
Oh, okay.
DJCMD.com. Dial it up, look at the opening page, just say archives. Click on that archive. I think that's what you're probably referring to, the listing of the radio shows. And really, over the last 8 weeks, one show after another show after this very topic about fish oils from guests who really know and brought up the science that allows me to make these what might be considered controversial statements maybe, but nonetheless scientifically based statements such as fish oil is hazardous to your health. It's a pretty good jolt for somebody who takes fish oil, but nonetheless science indicates that exactly is the case. So I urge you, go listen to all the shows. I labeled them pretty clearly who the guest was as well as what the topic is for that day. You'll find plenty of things to get into. Hope you enjoy it.
Okay, and that's regardless of the refining process. This is just in general, the fish oils.
Yeah, most people, if they heard that fish oils could be hazardous, would go, oh yeah, because of that mercury, huh?
Right.
And so, no, I mean, if you could, and by the way, it's very difficult to get 100% of all mercury removed. 99.5 is pretty much what gets done. But I'm not talking about the mercury at all. I am not talking about the mercury. I'm talking about the EPA and DHA compounded as though it were pure. And there was no mercury attached to it at all. Theoretically impossible, but in my discussion for right now, let's say it was. No, it's the EPA and DHA that's the problem because it's such a very intense and complex form of omega-3, your body can't handle it. And therefore, we need to go to a different form of oils, which I'm going to talk about here in just a moment.
Well, I'll be sure to check that out on your website, and I'll let others know, and I wasn't sure there's letters, but I did want to also comment that, maybe ask you a question. The young woman who was talking about the thyroid issue, I too feel as though some of the symptoms I've heard for low thyroid are evident in me, and yet my blood work comes back fine. And you do something besides that, apparently.
Yeah, believe you me, I cannot rely on blood tests at all. When I meet a patient, we can get a lot accomplished on the first day because I don't have to worry about getting their blood test. If I were to do that, I would be dissuaded, my medical training tells me, from ever treating someone who had normal blood work. I don't want that to cloud my picture. I'll look at a patient. Hey, sometimes just shake their hand when they walk in. They're throwing me a cold, talk about fish. This handshake, it's an ice cube I got in my hand. It is a dead fish. Well, by a handshake alone, I'm already thinking about thyroid disease. So by listening to a patient and hearing her symptoms, as well as, examining the patient, touching the patient, and things like that, I've got my answer right there. I don't need lab work to try to discourage me from thinking that I need to treat this patient. I now know that I do. And I would urge you to come in to see us.
I think I shall, and I need your phone number. And also, is this covered? I mean, you have health care insurance you accept. We have good insurance, and I'm thinking, do you take that, or is this cash?
Well, because I am an anesthesiologist by training, if you wanted to come in and talk to me about going to sleep for a surgery, I'll be able to charge your insurance company. But I'm not a primary care doctor. So people that come here go, you know what, I'm going to go to him because I want to be treated this way.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the consult to me is a cash deal.
Okay.
But everything else beyond, all the lab work and all that management and the medications are going to be covered by insurances. That's going to be covered. That's not going to be a problem. So
There's
don't.
Numbers on the website too.
Yeah, the website. I'll just give it to you right now. It's 724-942-3002.
Thank you very much.
Okay, stay.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Keep listening right now. I'm going to talk to you about what oils to take. Okay. All right, she's gone. Hopefully, see her soon. Yeah, this fish oil thing. Want to make sure we don't abandon the topic for today without, of course, telling you what oils to take. And as you should well know by now, scientifically determined by experimentation, not by study, by experimentation, that you should be taking an oil that has a ratio of 4-to-1 of omega-6s to omega-3s. The omega-6 component should be comprised of those parent oils of the linoleic acid category, which would be primrose, sunflower, safflower oil. These are parent, bargain, basement, low on the rung, building block oils in the omega-6 category. And in the omega-3 category, the 4-to-1 component, which is the omega-3 component, there are two representatives that I'm aware of. One would be flaxseed oil, and the other would be chia oil, that little thing that sets on your windowsill and grows like a little puppy that they advertise on TV. I never knew that chia seeds were a parent oil. Anyway, this product is only made by one company that I know of. The product is made by Body Balance. It happens to be Ed Kane as the producer of this oil, and he's been producing it since 1995. Why? Since 1995. Because in 1994, Professor Shlomo Yehuda, an Israeli physician, did the experimentation to prove that the ideal ratio is 4-to-1 of omega-6 to omega-3. It's not a haphazard thing pulled out of the sky. It has been determined scientifically through experimentation, not studies. Experimentation that is the ideal ratio, and those parent oils, once supplied, will allow you in, get a load of this, folks, 90 days. So that if you're all concerned about, my God, I've been taking fish oil so long, what kind of damage have I done? Well, let's not get into that part of it. Let's talk about what it takes to rectify this situation. And because we're talking about ingredients to build new membrane and to provide the moiety by which steroids are formed, that a cell turns over within 90 days. In other words, you, as you sit there listening to me now, are 100% completely different than you were 90 days ago. Why? Because every cell in your body has turned over, reproduced itself, and reproduced a brand new cell membrane to replace the one that was there 90 days ago. It's a brand new you, folks, And so when you supply the body with the right ingredients of these fats, the membranes and all the steroids that are also made through the use of these steroid molecules, within 90 days are brought up to speed. It only takes 90 days to turn it around. So don't think, oh my God, what have I done? Think, oh great, look how I can correct it in 90 days. Now this comes to you by the real clinician. I look at Professor Peskin, by the way, as the true academic. He brought us the science. He is not a practitioner. He is an MIT graduate in electrical engineering. He is as science-oriented as they come. He does not have, would never profess to have, any acumen with respect to clinical use of this information. That is where I believe Ed and Patricia Kane come in. Now, they're academic in one way because they're extremely intelligent and they know just about every one of the studies that has been cited by Professor Peskin. However, they treat patients, ill patients, patients that are very, sometimes terminally ill, and they do so by changing that cell membrane. And so, if there's one thing that's weighed heavily on my mind for how effective changing the ingredients are to balance out the way that membrane should be in order to allow it to function properly, it's Patricia Kane and Ed Kane that I turn to. I call them the true clinicians with respect to the fatty acids. I call Professor Peskin the true academician. What great resources they both are to put the entire picture together. I hope you've enjoyed the fact that we've attempted to do it for you. I look forward to being with you on Monday. You know, Faye Houston's going to be our guest. Here's a gal who battled such health issues because of environmental contaminants. She tried every single solitary approach that there was to getting the problem corrected. It was a lifetime saga documented in her book, Silent Enemy, Environmental Illness, and One Woman's Search for a Cure. There are the bongos. Have a wonderful, chilling weekend. It's going to heat up next week. The fire is starting to go out now. It was heating up in here, was it not? Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.